Hello everyone, Andrew here, and welcome to today's video where I thought I would talk a little bit about the recent E3 developments, mainly discussing Nintendo's press conference that happened yesterday, although technically today, as far as I'm concerned, as I'm recording this almost right after watching it, which means I'm missing kind of a whole bunch of the Treehouse stuff that happens afterwards. And sometimes they announce things during that weren't even mentioned during their presentation, which is just really silly. Like, why would you do that? I don't have all day to just sit down and watch the Treehouse stuff, but hopefully, what we go over to, today, you will find interesting, and if any kind of new developments come up afterwards, I'm sure we'll probably discuss them at some point. E3 though is that special time of year, although it used to be, really special. The specialness of it is kind of, waning, especially with, Sony's not even there this year. Nintendo hasn't really done a real press conference since like 2013, although, with the way that, their Wii Music presentation and stuff went, don't really blame them anymore, for not wanting to do real press conferences anymore, but it used to be a really special time. I remember I even had a friend who had, back in when G4 Tech TV was a huge thing, and they actually broadcast the press conferences live on TV. So we all went over to his house and we gathered around and watched it, and that was so cool. Now it's just everyone at home alone watching it on like a stream. I guess you have the chat to keep you company. I guess the closest thing to actually watching it with others would probably be if you went to like Nintendo World Store in New York, and you could probably watch it with a whole bunch of people there. But it's definitely E3 not as cool of an event, not the massive thing that I look forward to anymore like it used to be back in the day. But what I have here though is I picked a whole bunch of games off the shelf which kind of represent things that I want to talk about, obviously because the real games are not out yet. I'm just going to go through a whole bunch of different items one by one regarding my thoughts of what Nintendo did yesterday, and my overall thoughts, it's a mix. As I think anyone who watched it will know, their presentation was a very mixed kind of thing. And the first thing that we have to talk about here is Dragon Warrior, although of course not the NES game, but rather the fact that the hero, I think they call them, when I think you can change your skin to the main character from a variety of Dragon Warrior games. I think that's what they were getting at. I guess it's called Dragon Quest these days too. Even in North America, which is just crazy naming going on there. Just about as bad as the whole Final Fantasy numbering thing going on. The crazy days of retro games. But yeah, the hero of Dragon Warrior is coming to Smash Bros. Ultimate as a playable character, and my reaction to seeing that was very similar to the reaction that many people in the chat had, and it's like, cool, but it's just another sword fighter. We already have like 16 of those. Not to mention the entire cast of every single Fire Emblem character ever released is already in Smash Brothers. So I definitely don't see that. Then to top it all off, you have like Mii sword fighters, so you can technically just create any sword fighter you want. I don't know. They're probably going to be different enough for like the real hardcore Smash Brothers people to notice, but for me, it's nothing I really plan to drop my money on, because it does just look like another person with a sword in Smash Brothers, honestly. They're probably very easy to throw in there, which is why there's so many of them, because you just kind of copy-paste the same, movesets and such, and then mix things around a little bit. But overall, definitely not something I thought was too exciting. And then yeah, that's how we start things off with the rather dull announcement of that. Next thing that they moved on to was Luigi's Mansion, and I think that Luigi's Mansion 3 is very, very weird and interesting. Luigi's Mansion 1, an absolute classic, a beautiful game, defines the GameCube. You can't have a GameCube and not own Luigi's Mansion. Luigi's Mansion 2 was very cool too. All these years later, you finally get a sequel to that game, and it was fairly different, but I think many people kind of thought that because it's on the 3DS, the graphical style has to be a little bit different. Things have to be a little bit brighter and such, because otherwise, you're not really going to be able to see on the small screen, or some kind of excuse like that. But Luigi's Mansion 3, unfortunately, really seems to still be hanging on to the decisions made in Luigi's Mansion 2 that I wasn't such a huge fan of. I do not understand why, in a game about ghosts, for some reason, starting with Luigi's Mansion 2 now, the rooms aren't even dark. Luigi is walking around with a flashlight in rooms that are not even dark. And I guess the excuse is because now the flashlight is just the mechanic that you use to attack the ghosts and stun them so that you can suck them up. But what was wrong with the way it was done in the original game, where it was actually dark and spooky, like a game about, battling with ghosts should be? I do not understand the logic between making the game all bright and, it looks cheery. It looks more comedic than it should be. Sure, Luigi's Mansion 1 was not a super serious hardcore game or anything like that, but it had an atmosphere to it that I think was really enjoyable, and there was not one person back when this came out who was like, man, I just was scared to death when I played this, and the spooky atmosphere totally ruined the game. It should be more cartoony, and all the lights should be on from the very beginning. So I do not understand where Nintendo is coming from in regards to, the current art style with Luigi's Mansion, which I think is a shame. And I mean, of course, it's not just the art style that defines the game. I mean, I think that if it had the atmosphere of the first, it would be a lot better. But, well, I mean, we'll have to see just how Luigi's Mansion 3 is, when we get our hands on it. Again, another thing that's probably been discovered by this point is whether or not, it's been a big question, Luigi's Mansion 3 follows the more mission-based gameplay of the second one, or if it's more just, open world, explore the mansion, discover different rooms as you go of the first one. I think, did I say that right? More mission-based of the second one, open world in the first one. And I really hope that they go with, again, what, the first one did, but based on all the other things we've seen, I'm not getting my hopes up too much. They did say, at least from what I saw, of course, you're in this giant hotel, and I think they mentioned that you're going to be tackling it like floor by floor, and each floor will probably have a different theme, just like how in the second game there was different mansions with different themes. And that kind of worries me, because of course, again, there is the potential that maybe you unlock something on like the third floor that you need to go back down to the second floor and unlock a room which gives you a key that you can then go to the fourth floor with, that kind of thing. But it sounds kind of like at the moment you're probably just going to tackle the mansion floor by floor, and they'll be like their each own individual zone. But again, that's not confirmed, so we can keep our fingers crossed that maybe it will we'll take a little bit of inspiration at least from the first game. I'm not sure why Nintendo hates their earlier games so much. It's like Paper Mario 2, nah, scrap that. Everyone wants paint and stickers now. I actually saw a couple of really good comments in the chat on the side of the YouTube stream. And someone was like, when do we get Paper Mario the Thousand-Year Door 2? And it's like, it's not even like you're just asking for a new Paper Mario game. It's like you're literally asking for Paper Mario the Thousand-Year Door, which was Paper Mario 2. You want a 2 of that. Which, you understand, you have to ask for that now. You can't just ask for a new Paper Mario game. You'll get like, Color Splash 2 or something like that, which is not what I don't think anyone is asking for. So that's my kind of spiel about... I don't understand why. It's like Nintendo has the recipe for making the perfect game, and they're like, nah, we don't need that. And they make something that's still good, but it's not as good as it could have been if they had just, followed that recipe for whatever reason. I don't know. What do all of you feel like that? I feel like there's a lot of people who, like, if you say anything wrong about Luigi's Mansion 3, they get upset at you. And I don't know if that's maybe because they haven't really played the first one, and they don't really understand that, people who really enjoyed the first one looked at the second one and also thought it was okay, but would like to see another game more like the first one. I don't know. I'm not going to go on about that anymore. Please post your comments down below about Luigi's Mansion 3. I'd be curious to see what my viewers think of that matter. Next thing up is there's a new Fire Emblem game coming out. I don't really play the Fire Emblem games. It feels like there was just a new Fire Emblem game, but we're going to talk a little bit about something I thought was, more recent a little later. And I was wrong about that, but I think like a new Fire Emblem game comes out like every year or two. And it's funny because I feel like a lot of the series that I follow these days used to be like that. They used to have a new game like every single year or two. The Mega Man games, you used to literally get one every single year. If it wasn't the original series, it was the X series. If it wasn't the X series, it was the Battle Network series. And I loved that. I think that those were like such great days as someone who loved that series. So I'm guessing that if you're a fan of the Fire Emblem series, you probably have a very similar experience going on right now. Like every year or two, you're just, getting what you love. So I think that's awesome, but for someone like me, who isn't the biggest Fire Emblem fan, I'm like, why are all these characters taking up the roster in Smash Brothers? And also, why is there so many of these games? Obviously, they're very popular, so hopefully everyone who's looking forward to that will enjoy it. Also, there is apparently a new Contra game coming out, which isn't even really that much like a Contra game, I guess. It's kind of like what Federation Force was to Metroid. It's just like they slapped the Contra name on it, and there you go. Everyone buy it over, out of nostalgia's sake or something like that. Not too sure what's up with that. I think, they showed the trailer for that new one, and then they showed like not a 5, it was like less than that, it was like a 2-second clip of like, oh, by the way, there's also like a Contra collection or something coming out. It's like, again, it was so fast that didn't even really have a chance to acknowledge what was going on there, but that's the thing that's apparently coming out. Also, we have Panzer Dragoon coming back. It was really cool because I saw that, like, it started with the trailer of it, and then it showed the name. But while it was showing the trailer, I'm like, no way, is that Panzer Dragoon? There's no way that they would, be like an HD remake or something like that, or I don't know if it's an HD remake, or it could just be like a brand new game, but they're doing that thing where they just, put the original name on it without any kind of subtitle because they think it's cool when they do that. like Rocky and all that, or like when Sonic the Hedgehog tried that, and we all know how well that went. So yeah, apparently a new Panzer Dragoon game coming out, which is, it's rather fascinating to see that series coming back. There was also a No More Heroes 3 coming out, which I think is pretty cool. The comments in the YouTube section were very mean to that. I have never really played too much of No More Heroes, but I have a friend who's definitely really enjoyed it, and I think it's cool that that is, coming back after all these years. There was a comment in the on the side that was like, no more heroes, more like no more good games. And I mean, I don't really agree with that. I don't think that that's too fair. No More Heroes 3 looks like a pretty neat game. And again, I might not buy it, but it doesn't mean that, I don't like it. I think it's probably going to be pretty decent. Hopefully all those who liked the first two enjoyed that one. The next thing we need to talk about is Pokemon. Obviously not Pokemon Blue, but Pokemon Sword and Shield. I'm not really surprised that they didn't touch more on it, considering we just had a direct all about Pokemon not too much recently. But it was kind of funny how they just kind of came in. They're like, oh, by the way, Pokemon is not done yet. It will be out later. Don't ask any more questions. Okay, bye. It's like, it was almost like maybe it shouldn't have been in the presentation at all, because it just kind of got people's hopes up. And then he's just like, no, we're not talking about this at all. It's neat though. I mean, they have, of course, Pokemon Sword and Shield set up to play at Nintendo's press conference at E3. As far as Pokemon goes though, I don't know. I feel like I'm not sure if I'm going to get it. I think that, again, this is another one of those things, like, it's kind of back to the Luigi's Mansion situation where depending on your history with Nintendo, you probably feel different about it. If you have not been playing Pokemon since the beginning, you're probably not burned out of Pokemon at this point. But in my case, I can only start my Pokemon journey so many times before it's like, I don't want to pick my first Pokemon again. I don't want to learn how to catch Pokemon again. I don't want to learn that there's a Pokemon League and 8 badges to collect again. And I don't want to go through the same caves, forests, deserts, ocean areas again. So, I mean, that's kind of how I feel about Pokemon these days, and I definitely don't think that everyone else should feel that way, especially if you haven't been playing it as long as I have. But I think that if they changed it up a little bit, where instead of it being a story where it's like, it's your first day getting a Pokemon, and oh man, it's so amazing because you've never actually done that before, even though you've totally done it since like 1998. I mean, I think then I'd be a little bit more intrigued by Pokemon again. But as it is now, I just don't feel like setting off on this incredible adventure that isn't, what's it called? Not the nostalgia. That's the opposite. I guess, the magic of it has worn off a little bit in terms of, as someone who's been playing Pokemon since the very beginning. But for all of you out there who are looking forward to it, I hope that it is a fantastic game and meets all of your expectations. So far, I don't think it's really looked like, anything too new. I mean, just having new Pokemon designs doesn't really impress me. I already kind of feel like there's too many of them. I don't think that you just need like a reskin of a type that already exists. Like, I mean, there's already enough like, like fire ground types and, like flying types and water types and such, where unless you're doing something really new with them, introducing a new Pokemon just for the sake of introducing it, I mean, it's very just for like, the advertising cash grab kind of thing. I mean, at least that's how it comes across. I don't know. But for all of you who are looking forward to Pokemon, I hope that you enjoy that. Another thing is Animal Crossing. Again, I was never too into the Animal Crossing series. I guess that's the thing. I mean, all of the series that I play, there wasn't too much representation of them in this Nintendo Direct, except for Luigi's Mansion, which again, as I've mentioned, I have questions about that in particular. But Animal Crossing, again, I thought that this, it hadn't been that long since the last Animal Crossing. Everyone's saying, I mean, where's the new Animal Crossing game? And then I looked it up and it was like 2012 that New Leaf came out, and that blew my mind. I did not think it was like 7 years ago. And then of course there was like that Amiibo party that everyone was like, really disappointed by. So I understand why Animal Crossing fans have been waiting so long for the new Animal Crossing to come out. And it looks cool. Hopefully all of you who are into Animal Crossing like that, what's it called? It definitely looked very like Harvest Moony. And I don't remember Animal Crossing looking that, like farming simulator-ish. It's weird. I don't know. I guess I thought it was more like lively than that. Just from the trailer that they showed, it seemed very kind of lifeless. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but I mean, again, I'm not the big Animal Crossing aficionado. Hopefully all of you who were looking forward to it and hoping that there would be an announcement were happy by what you saw. But I mean, again, even in like the comments on the side, people were saying it looked like a mobile game and stuff, and I definitely got that impression too when I was looking at it. I'm like, this is the Switch Animal Crossing. Definitely, I don't know, it didn't look, I guess, how I expected a Switch Animal Crossing would, but hopefully all of you out there do like that. The next announcement is not that Banjo-Kazooie is coming to the Switch in game form, unfortunately, like that, but he is Banjo and Kazooie, him and her, are coming to Smash Bros. Ultimate, which I think really blew my mind. The way that they were introduced was awesome. The way it was going, I almost thought it was going to be like a new Donkey Kong Country Returns reveal. I mean, of course, then you would have to ignore all the Smash Bros. Stuff that happened before the Donkey Kong part, but still, I was really getting my hopes up for that. And then they showed Banjo. Well, actually, I mean, they didn't immediately show him. You know what happened if you saw the Nintendo Direct yourself. But I thought that was really cool. It's going to be really neat to be able to play as Banjo. I don't usually buy the Smash Brothers DLC, but I think you can buy just like individual characters, so I might have to buy Banjo. He might be the one that finally breaks me into buying a DLC character, just because I think he would be pretty cool to get the chance to play with. So what we've entered now, though, is kind of when Nintendo Direct, it started to get better. People were very unimpressed with it at the beginning, but near the end, it's kind of like, you know, they had 5 minutes left and just shoved all the cool stuff into that last 5 minutes. And at the end, they showed kind of like, you know, just a couple quick clips of things that are coming out that they didn't really talk too much about. One of those things is that the Spyro trilogy is finally coming to the Switch. I think that's going to be really neat. I do not actually own a PS4 or an Xbox One. I almost said 360. An Xbox One, so I have not had the chance to play you know, the Spyro trilogy yet. As far as the PS4 goes, it's awesome that it sounds like the PS5 is going to be backwards compatible with the PS4. And I mean, I had not really expected that, considering the PS4 is not backwards compatible, but that's awesome, because then I can just get a PS5 at some point, and I'll be able to play any PS4 games that I was not able to play back in the day. Assuming that, hopefully, they don't do the thing like the PS3 did, where then later models took out the backwards compatibility with PS2 games. I think any PS3 can still play PS1 games, but yeah, that's great. Hopefully I'll just be able to get a PS5 someday, and then, you know, I'll start building up my PS4 library from there. And another thing that they showed at the end, just really quickly, is that Breath of the Wild is getting a full-on sequel, which is great, because again, as someone who doesn't really buy too much DLC, I probably wouldn't have bought, you know, anything that they were showing if it was just DLC, unless it looked really good, but the fact that it's a full-on sequel means I'll definitely be picking up that whenever it comes out. And there was no Mario Maker 2 in their press conference, but I'm very much looking forward to that, and I already have my pre-order down. Unfortunately, there was no announcement that they added in online multiplayer, which I think everyone's probably seen enough about that on the internet that I won't go too much into it here, but just silly Nintendo. Silly, silly, silly Nintendo. Why do you continue to make these decisions that at this point do not really surprise me, yet they kind of do, because you make me, you know, I get my expectations up, and it's not like Mario Maker 2 is going to be a bad game now, but it just means it's going to be, you know, less opportunities to play with friends like Milesluigi and Teal Game Master, of course, which is a shame. But with that said, I hope that all of you had fun watching E3 this year, and, you know, particularly Nintendo's E3. Let me know what you think about this. I don't know. In terms of games that I enjoy, or series that I enjoy, I mean, there was definitely an absence of that here. Like, where the heck is Metroid Prime 4? Like, everyone was sure that they were going to be talking about that this year. It's like, nope, it's still on fire. You know, Retro Studios still busy putting out the fire after, you know, whatever the heck happened to that. So, I'm not sure. And then, of course, you know, Fire Emblem and such, again, not a series I really play. I thought that there was just a new Fire Emblem game, but hopefully, you know, anyone who plays these series is looking forward to these games. I mean, if you are one of the people looking forward to the new Contra game, let me know. I'm curious what people think of that. So thank you very much for watching this. Hope you enjoyed. I realized I was very cynical about Pokemon. I'm sorry, Pokemon. You are the coolest series. Like, I have such fond memories growing up with Pokemon Blue. And then I played, you know, Gold. And then I played Sapphire. And then I played Diamond. Well, actually, before Diamond, I think I played, you know, Fire Red. And then Diamond. And then I played Heart Gold, and it was around that point when I realized I was kind of just doing the same thing over and over and over again. It was always about, you know, starting this brand new journey, and, you know, just entering the world of Pokemon for the first time, even though, I mean, it's definitely not how I feel at this point anymore. But for those of you who have not been playing the Pokemon series as long as I have, I mean, you likely do not feel like that, and you're probably very much looking forward to the new Pokemon game. And again, I hope that it is just as good as you are expecting it to be, but for now, probably just sit it out a little bit until the series does a little bit more than the same thing it's been doing for the last 20 years. So, with that said, thank you very much for watching. I hope that you've enjoyed, and I hope that you'll join me next time when we talk about something different. So thanks, and see you later.